At Your End Step is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan. I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And Dave.
Hi.
And we have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. Got a few community topics to discuss, and then we'll move into the events that happened over the weekend. We had a couple of GPs, and we had the Comic Town Championship Series Invitational. I wanted to say like series
championship.
Yeah. To talk about, and then we will do our typical end of the show stuff, and then you can be on your way. So let's jump right into the community segment.
I don't think it's how podcasts work.
I mean,
like, thanks for stopping by.
That's what I figure. People just, their world stops to listen to us, I assume. I mean, they should, judging from how many people reach out to us on Twitter about all the times where they nearly die while listening to listening to the podcast while driving.
I think we've warned that a couple times. And this is the time of year where you easily could like slip off the road, depending on where you're at.
It's getting icy out there.
You
gotta be careful. Only listen at your end step in secure areas where you and yours can be safe.
Sit out in your backyard. We'll be your Wilson.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you never see our faces, so it's kind of the same.
It is true. Except for I assume our listener isn't terrible.
That's also true. Tim Allen. Sorry, any Tim Allen fans out there. Tim Allen's kind of a terrible person.
You can enjoy his work. He's still terrible.
Okay, fair enough.
You can go R, and I like Buzz Lightyear, and go also I don't like Tim Allen.
What about Al?
I mean, he was funny on Family Feud.
Yeah, I don't really know the personal backstory of Richard Karn, so
I'm glad you remember his name.
At least his last name is Karn.
Know his actual
it's because he's part father. What you building over there? Is it a tower? I bet it is.
So let's kind of start off the show with a bit of an update from what we talked about last week. This kind of came out literally the day or two after we recorded. But Jeremy Hambley of Unsleep Media and MTG HQ Notoriety received a lifetime ban from the DCI, and his MTGO account was confiscated. And this is something that they didn't directly state in like an article or anything like that. But WotC and Elaine Chase did have something that kind of said that they were taking the first steps towards fixing trying to work towards fixing the community in a way, and this was part of those steps. And it's also important to note that Travis Wu also received a ban, but it was not lifetime. It was a 1-year ban. And several players who were identified as being part of the MTG for Bad group, which is the group that Travis Wu started and was a part-time moderator of, also received 3-month bans. So there were some hammers that fell.
Gotta say, regardless of how anybody feels about this, like if you as an individual are trying to defend yourself, and when they're like, "Oh, you're receiving a suspension for being part of the group called MTG for Bad," which is literally a group created in response to MTG for Good, you're literally in the supervillain hideout. Like, you joined the Legion of Doom, and they got upset when you got arrested. You know what I mean? Like,
congratulations.
Oh, no, I was just hanging out with Lex Luthor. I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, no, he invited me over for cocktails, and I was like, "All right, Lex, nice digs you have here. Oh, there's the Black Manta and Solomon Grundy. Like, oh, there's a lot of bad people here. I probably shouldn't be here."
Wednesday, I get it, Solomon.
No, well, I understand. No, we've been through this. And then you got busted when the
fuzz showed up, and you were like, "Why am I here?
Why am I here? I'm not a supervillain. I don't have any special powers." It's all right.
One thing I want to make mention of the way they're going about this. Elaine Chase may mention this too, but there is a code of conduct for players, and you agree to it when you get a DCI number. Just like when you download iTunes and you click accept, or
it's an end user's license agreement, pretty much.
And I like that's the way they're sort of going about doing that, where it's like, hey, this is because it's tough for an individual store to to do these things without receiving backlash. So they can sort of do this with the code of conduct. Well, yeah, that's how we're going to do it. So I really applaud them for that, for going about it. If you're a person who wants to, again, yell things like freedom of speech or too far or whatever, these are people who use Magic terminology, the Magic logo, Magic itself to make money for themselves. WotC can do as they please and should.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people said that the lifetime ban thing has been unprecedented. It's never happened before, but it did happen with Zach Jesse, if you remember that. This was what, a year or two ago,
like
maybe
2 years now.
Yeah, at this point, it's the same thing with him. He lifetime banned, his online account got confiscated. Different situation with
For
that,
sure.
but Wizards can do what they want. I mean, they're not held to any law or I guess or whatever. So, if they feel like this is the right action to take, then they have every right to do so. So, yeah, I mean, so your actions have consequences.
That feels nice. That for a lot of this, like
Yeah, in a crazy wild world where it seems like that's not the case for a lot of
anywhere
people.
else? Yeah,
Yeah.
Anywhere else?
Yeah, it's nice to see like, oh, okay, well at least there's one place where you could be a terrible person and then like actually have something like bad happen to you.
Yeah, I like video games and like game companies are the ones who have to step up and tell people this is wrong. Not like our politicians or anything like that. That's weird.
No, there's no room for that. And there was another kind of a big sort of wasn't a ban, was a decertification, but this happened in the judge community. Level 3 judge Chris Lansdell was decertified from being a level 3 judge due to sexual harassment. And this is kind of a weird situation. It wasn't actually really going to be a public announcement, but basically some information got out about it via social media, and the judge page basically, did update with this statement basically about this whole entire situation. And I think their statement is pretty clear. I mean, obviously, this isn't a ban, so Chris Lansdell can still be a player in Magic tournaments and things like that, which I don't know if that is gonna be the case, or if there's gonna be anything else that happens about this. But I mean, this seems to be sort of the end of it, but who knows?
Yeah, so it is important to know that because the way, like as you sort of implied, by the way, because the judge panel is is independent, they can take this action. DCI could later take action if they want to. But seeing as the way they explain this being mostly about an abuse of power, right, as like someone who has prominence or authority, then it makes sense to remove that person from that position. It makes sense. So,
yep. But there is an article up on the judge blog. So if you do want to read more about this situation, you certainly can. And it's important to be educated about what's going on within the community. So definitely encourage you to read more about that at that destination. So some brighter news. The Great Designer Search is starting up again. We're going to have the Great Designer Search 3, which is kind of exciting for me. I wasn't around for the first two. So it's kind of interesting to kind of be around in the community for the third one. And there are definitely a lot of people that are going to be interested in this, choose themselves to see themselves, I should say, as amateur designers. I know that I think a lot of us have a little bit of that due to Dave's Cube.
Yeah, we know Mike's designed at least 2 cards.
Right. And we have an invitational for the Cube group, and if you win, you get your own, souped up uncommon, pretty much, for the Cube that gets to be in there until the next invitational. I think the power level of them has gotten better as we've had more tournaments.
Maybe the most recent one
for the most part. I don't know.
Oh, so you're saying the more practice you get, the better you get
at designing
cards? Oh,
but I mean, they're powerful, and they're meant to be powerful. So it'll be kind of interesting to see, like, if what comes of this, basically.
I'm assuming no, but is anybody here going to take part in it?
Oh, not at all.
I would love to. So I would love to actually take part in it, but also like abstain from like. I can't take an internship in Seattle for 6 months. I just can't.
Yeah.
But I'd love to be a part of it just for fun. But I don't think that they would even if somehow I randomly was chosen, and have to be like, oh yeah, I'm literally just messing with you guys. Like I just want to see how you feel.
Yeah, JK.
So I think it'd be fun to be a part of, though.
Yeah, for sure.
But-
And like we will be a part of it on a audience scale, but not
I just want you to know you just
personal
made
scale.
everyone here sound super old. I just want you to say, we'll all be a part of it. We'll live vicariously through someone else.
I didn't feel that way.
Now you do. No,
You guys make me feel old as it is, so I'm kind of impervious to that. So.
Impervious
Like, I
to-
already feel
You're
old.
impervious to age? Dave, I've seen pictures.
I don't know.
I've seen college, Dave. Was your Skype photo for some time? Is it still? Be honest.
That wasn't actually a college photo.
Okay, you were rowdy in high school. All right, fair enough. No, I think it'd be fun to do, but I do think like it's just tough when you have sort of commitments, like real life commitments, and you can't just be like, I'm going to take this. Is it unpaid or is it even paid?
It's paid.
Okay, well that's good at least.
It's paid, and I think it's paid substantially well.
Oh, never mind. I changed my mind.
So
But this is a cool thing that they do, or that they have done in the past. It's kind of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory type situation.
Yeah, that's
It's
how I
like,
felt
hey,
about it.
Yeah, you want to a lot of people out there, maybe not us, but like a lot of people want to do this as their job, or like just game design and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean it gives people a way to kind of get into Wizards and kind of show them what they can do. And we have people. I think Ken Nagel was one of the he was from one of the past ones.
and I think Ethan Fleischer.
Yeah.
Was he one of them? There were some that are. See, the tricky thing with this is that sometimes you don't have to get first to win. The first
Yeah.
person obviously wins, but they usually they have the habit of recruiting people that come in within the top of the class as far as these designer searches go. But there have been many designer that have been plucked from the top of the ranks for these tournaments or the I don't know, competition, I guess would be a better term.
Yeah, it's like American Idol for Magic.
Yeah, basically.
As long as you don't give any of the sweet magic secrets to Slugworth, we'll be okay.
But if you want to participate in that, you can definitely check out the Daily MTG site, and they have a bunch of links to it, so you can join it. I don't know when the deadline is, though, for it off the top of my head.
January 15th.
Oh, so
All I will suggest for those people submitting, because there's a fair amount of writing in the beginning, please edit it. This is a pet peeve of mine due to my profession, but
It's also just like if
Like-
you're applying for any job.
yeah, write professionally. It's not a joke. It leads to a job. So write professionally.
Yeah.
That's my one thing for everybody.
it's a good thing. Next up, we have Channel Fireball is going to be adding some Pauper events to the side events at GPs. These I think it's just the beginning GPs that they've announced so far, but there was some demand. There was some lively Twitter talk about it, and they decided to basically update their side event schedule to add these events. So this will be kind of one of the rare times where you have a grand scale where you can a grander scale where you can play paper Pauper. Which is a local thing for a lot of people that I know, not necessarily around here, but I know that that is a community that's usually supported at the LGS level. But this is something you can go to a GP too, and bring your Pauper deck and play.
So if Peter Piper played a pair of paper Pauper
I
players,
hate you.
how many players would Peter Piper play in Pauper per day? I don't know. The first line was good. Give me that.
No,
Give me that.
I'll give you the first line. So I think it's kind of interesting that Pauper has been a fan favorite format. It's played heavily online. It's one of the easiest ways where you can grind play points online or tickets or what have you, because decks are typically inexpensive. So that's typically where the support for it comes from.
It's a nice side effect of a format being all commons.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about this more at the end, though, right?
Yeah, we have a question of the
Yeah,
week
yeah.
surrounding this.
I just
so
want to get too
we
deep
can talk
into
about
if
it
we're
more.
if we're
You're
gonna
good.
do it then.
But yeah, we'll revisit it then during the question of the week. So moving on. Lastly, we did have the opportunity to draft Unstable over the weekend, and I'm sure we have some thoughts. Also, AskUrza.com was live, and it's just a whole bunch of Planeswalker abilities. That's basically the summarization. It's 20 of each
Yes.
of the abilities.
Yeah.
So
So the plus one is 20 +1 abilities.
+1 or
plus
+2.
abilities.
Plus
from
abilities.
class planeswalkers.
Yeah. And then the minus is a bunch of minus abilities, and then the ultimate is a bunch of very, very powerful ultimate abilities for Planeswalkers.
Right.
So you can do a heck of a lot of stuff with that guy. It's all random, though. So also, there have been a lot of people that have taken all of those abilities and backed them up to various degrees. So even if that ever went away or wasn't accessible, you'd be able to figure out how to work it.
The people making dice out of them.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's making 20-sided dice out of all the different things you can do, and that's pretty awesome to have forever. I enjoyed the format. Did you? Fair. Yeah, you're. I don't know what it is. Morgan has stopped liking anything that's fun in the last month.
The world, it's changed me.
Like, I'm so
the world, you know where we live.
Yeah, but
you know the one planet we live on.
The fun, bud.
It's hard.
It's weird because I actually enjoyed it, and I'm not one to enjoy silver bordered sets. You know.
So it's fine. I think. It's weird because, like, the first experience I had with it, the first draft that we did, I lost to a bunch of unblockable creatures and evasive creatures. So it's like, cool, I just lost to a regular draft deck.
Please. My first game was against Mike. He went turn 1, the blue 1/1 that you can install a die on. Turn 2, the 1/1 for 2 that lets you roll a die every turn and put counters on it.
You know who I learned that from? I learned that by watching Morgan.
Oh yeah,
his best
so
deck.
I learned it from you. So the first draft that I did, it just wasn't a good draft, and I think that's why I felt really salty because I didn't lose anything like wild or crazy. Like I just lost to like a good draft deck in like a regular draft, so it didn't feel special. It just felt like I just lost to a good draft deck.
It's just like regular draft with die rolls.
Well, I think that's important though because, and I was talking about this with people when we were
That's
drafting.
probably why I liked it.
If you played on, because like I've drafted Unglued and Unhinged, and both of them were awful. Like they were funny, but they don't play like Magic sets.
Yeah.
Like and Unhinged had so many like not just game breaking, but like unfun, like funny rares that like it was a true novelty set where you drafted it once, you said, haha, that was stupid, and you moved on.
That was the one that had like half power and stuff.
Yeah, it was just stupid. This set it has modern draft design, so it has a lot of wacky elements. Like we were essentially playing Jenga on our first drafts. I was drawing cards from my opponent's decks consistently, which is the most fun thing I've ever done. But you still could play regular Magic, which means, yes, sometimes you're losing to what feels like a normal draft deck, but at the same time, you're also getting to play Magic, because you never drafted Unhinged, I assume.
No, okay. I never drafted any of the unsets.
This is the only unset that feels like a draft set. The other two were garbage. So I think you've got to take that for what it is. Like it gets to be this way because of that.
And like I understand that, and I knew that going in, but it just felt miserable, like knowing that the deck I was drafting was bad. And there wasn't anything I could necessarily do about it, but that always feels awful. So, like, what are you gonna do?
It's about having fun, though. It doesn't really matter. But my deck was bad. I didn't even know how contraptions worked. Like, I was trying to figure it out during the draft. I probably passed a bunch of good ones, but whatever.
Like I want to keep drafting it, and I don't think I would have. I mean, I was excited to do it, but I never would have thought last week. I figured I'd be done this week. Now I'm like, man, I'd like to try and do that a few more times.
I'll say this, Mike. Like, I think it's important that this set is fun to actually draft, because if it wasn't, like, the novelty wears off really quick. The cards are already not worth anything, outside of the lands or the foil tokens and all that. But like, it's like at least like make it worth buying a box. You know what I mean?
Go ask your LGSs. Like Comic Town this weekend was sold out of unstable boxes, which is great because Unhinged was a set that famously for a while you could go buy for $1. Like you'd go to a store and they'd have prophecy packs next to their Unhinged packs, sets from wherever they couldn't sell. Eventually the lands caught up in price and the packs were worth money, but you had people take a huge loss. Now if stores are able to then sell, like we saw, I think you got a box, right? You got a box for...
I will be. I don't have it.
But you got it for like under 80, right?
I got it for 77. Yeah.
I've been following them, like the groups I'm in for like finance stuff. It's hard to find one under 90 right now.
Yeah.
Because like people actively want them, not just open for lands, but to actually play with. So that's a big deal. I'm enjoying this more than I enjoyed Ixalan. And I will say, like Dave, you liked it. I know Morgan, you may not have liked it very much, but like Dave, you literally only play competitive, right?
Yeah.
You know who else loved this set? My wife thinks it's the most fun thing she's ever done in Magic, and she's the most casual player you ever meet. So to be able to bridge that, right, is cool. And I think it's a win.
I think it's good. I've had some time to reflect on it, and I think it's good. I think it will take some more time. I think it is really difficult to draft.
I agree with that.
I think it's really really difficult to draft. I think that it is very archetypal based, and I don't. It's really hard to draft it off beat, I would say. I think contraptions are weird. Contraptions are a weird thing that you have to draft.
Yeah,
I
I
know
agree
what
with
was.
that.
I didn't know what was
I
going
agree
on.
with that.
But I think like
I think it's really hard to.
I think the good ones are obscenely good.
Yes,
But again, it's literally a new card type. They're impossible to balance, especially in an Unreal set.
yes. So I think it is more skill testing than a regular. It's more skill testing than a regular draft, which makes it stressful, and that stress maybe detracts away from the fun that I was trying to have, because I didn't feel like I could not care. I still was like with my friends and wanted to win and be competitive.
I think that's the competitive element of it.
Yeah. So like that's the thing. But some of the cards are just goofy. I spent a lot of time with my head on the table because of the skull
That was
saucer.
really funny.
That was funny. I have a better way of doing that now in case I draft another one, which is just to negate the chair, not sit in the chair, but like
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But and like my second draft went a lot better. It was very dice focused.
Oh, I just want to say before I go check on my son who's crying upstairs. I got to Mike. I beat your wife with an infinity elemental that I gave unblockable with one of the contraptions. So that was
Yeah, as Dave put it, because of the infinite, she is still currently taking damage.
She's still taking damage.
It's weird. It's weird how it works.
And the second draft I did was black green squirrels. And it was focused on like a bunch of die roll stuff like that, and it was sometimes it's pretty gross for sure. So we'll be drafting it again, and we'll see how that draft goes at least twice, because Keller still has a box, doesn't he?
I don't think he does. I think
Does he not?
Sonic Masters.
Okay. Oh no,
He wanted nothing to do with it. But I think I'm during the holiday season may also try to pick up a box just for
nice,
fun.
cool.
So
And like see mine like the lanes are going for like $2 and up.
yeah, you can
So
make
it's
your
like
money back.
right, like
Sure.
like
Especially if you wait a little bit, because like there's a ton of people selling right now.
right, and I'm probably just gonna hold on to them for various decks and stuff like that. I'll probably use them rather than sell them.
Yeah, I'm not. That's not
So,
there.
and like I think the lanes are just like they're weird, but I still think they're pretty cool. And maybe you get lucky and open that foil one. You
Yeah, I
never know.
gotta say that's the only thing I think is annoying about it. Like WotC, for some reason, the way they printed the lands, because they are rarer than regular foil lands, because there's only one on the sheet. I like the way it sets up instead of 4 on the sheet like you have with another set. So they're like one in a case, and it's really gross.
They're
But
not even one in a case. Well, yeah, one in a
one
case.
every 3.5
Yeah, you're right.
boxes,
One in
so
a
it
case.
is one
Yes,
in a
that's
case.
correct.
But-
But hey, maybe you get that foil Steel Plager boss, and that card's pretty expensive
Yeah, it's
actually.
like $40 I saw,
yeah,
right?
because it's super rare.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, but I also understand the competitive element part of it. Like,
Yeah, it's weird.
The bunker card, when I tried to set up a friend of ours to just not be able to win with it, like to fail, was probably mean. But
Yeah.
one thing before we move away from Unstable, I do want to mention that some people talked about the alternate art stuff, and I do want to commend WotC for the alternate cards or alternate art and like all the. It was a little interesting in drafts. Like in practice, it was kind of fun because you could see all these different ones. I think it was confusing for the ones that have the same art because it's easy to forget what they do. But I want to mention one of the very cryptic commands because I didn't know this until today. But the one that looks like an unfinished sketch is actually an unfinished sketch. Wayne England, who's a prominent magic artist that passed away. And I guess this was his last sketch, was for Very Cryptic Command. So they actually have one of the versions is using his unfinished sketch, and it actually, if you look at the abilities on the card, it has the draw card. If that card's art is by Wayne England, you can reveal it and draw another card. And I thought that was really a really nice way to be like, hey, we're still going to use this. It was commissioned, like he worked really hard on this, and you're going to get your shout out here. And like I think that's really cool.
It's a good way to show reverence and in respect to someone that has obviously contributed a heck of a lot to the game.
Absolutely. And I think like WotC could have shied away from that because they were Unhinged had a whole like art like sub theme, and it also had a couple artists they featured who kind of like bit them in the butt. Ed Beard. Who's literally the fascist art director, and it sticks. I think this is cool that they still do this and subtle. You're not going to see it all the time, so it feels special when you do.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Like I said, I'm okay with drafting it maybe a couple more times and trying to figure it out, and hopefully getting something to pull together. So next up we have our competitive segment. Before we move on, definitely want to give a shout out to Comic Town, our lovely sponsor. They're actually going to be hosting a Star City Games Modern IQ this Saturday, December 16th. So be sure to check out Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook to get some more details about the event. But with the Open coming up in Columbus, it's time to get some practice in. Depending on whatever you're going to play, whether it be Mono Red Moon, Red White Prison, Lantern Control, just whatever you want, just whatever like horrible garbage deck you want to play, just sleeve it up and come play it in Modern because it's competitive. But that'll be again December 16th, this Saturday. So if you're not going to see Star Wars, which you definitely should see Star Wars after you go play this Star City Games IQ, of course.
I'm so excited. I hear Star Wars and I start getting a little shakes a little bit.
It's like I can't wait.
I need it.
Cannot wait. All right, so competitive. So we do want to talk a little bit about the Invitational, the not Star City Games Invitational, the Comic Town final for their Championships series, and I want to give a shout out to Matt Welch for taking down and winning the tournament, and shout out to Mike for top 8ing the tournament. So congratulations! You played Ramen Up Red.
I did
a deck after my own heart. So congratulations! And Dave actually went 4-2 and finished 10th place. He's still consoling his wee baby,
his spawn.
his spawn. So, but congrats to both of you. I, of course, wasn't qualified because I'm a scrub, and we all know that. But that was a good cap to end the year on for the Comic Town Championship Series, and we are pretty excited to see what 2018 brings us in that realm. So let's move on.
Oh, thanks. Okay, that's cool.
No, did you wear the?
No, it's cool. I just like how you just took that away from me. That's nice.
We gave you a congratulations. We gave you a laurel and a hearty handshake. What more do you want? Do you want to talk about?
I can speak.
Okay, then tell us about your tournament.
I top 8 it.
You're the worst.
No, it was. I just want to talk a little bit about it because when people talk about national metas and does it match in your local meta, I will tell you this: it matches in your local meta. It was only energy in red for the most part.
But I mean, that's what standard is. Like if you're playing a reasonable
No, I understand. I'm confirming that.
Yeah, price
I'm,
ban.
I'm not upset about it. I played a deck to play into it. I know what I did.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of recent standards, that's just how it's been.
It's fair.
But towards the end of the lifespan of the standard, your meta is just going to be whatever the best deck is. And when there's a consensus, which is where we've gotten the last times we've reached the last month, I would say, of a standard's life, yeah. And for the past amount of time, it's just been Teamer Energy anyway. So you haven't had to change.
I'm not asking you to go ranting. We all know. What I will say is that I chose a deck that I had a ton of reps with, and it consistently paid off. I had a number of people who I played against both in the mirror and in energy matchups where they felt that the matchup was very strongly in their favor, and I was able to play around it. Sometimes it's good draws. Don't get me wrong. That's what the red deck does. But I felt it. This is the first time I've played a deck consistently on Magic Online. It's just not something I've been doing up until recently, and it felt good to see how those reps really make so many decisions a lot easier, make so many games a lot easier, where you just know what to do in this situation, what not to do in the situation. You're not questioning, you're not surprised by cards. It felt pretty good. So, my loss came against a 4-color energy deck against a pretty prominent local player. And we played a really good match. Honestly, we played just a crazy back and forth match. So it was a fun tournament. There were some awkward moments, but overall it was good, and I was glad to top 8. So, but I was just saying that yes, standard is dominated by these decks, but as always, you can still gain an edge if you know what you're doing. Yeah,
and I think I think that is where you see the most sort of divide as far as win percentages. It's just if you are putting time and effort into the format to some degree, then you are going to get rewarded, and that is what happened. And it sucks that you couldn't take down the tournament. It sucks that Dave couldn't top 8. It was very very unfortunate. But you guys tried, and we'll have to see again what happens in the future for the Comic Town tournament series. So again, Sorry I didn't give you your time to shine.
That's all right. I was trying to harass you a little bit. Plus, about time for Dave to come back.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, we're just going to move on to like GP Madrid, which is a team modern event, so not necessarily a whole lot to talk about, but of course we want to give props to the winners, which were the team of Rodrigo Tugores, Christian Ortiz Aros, and Adrian Romero Cano. So congrats to them. We can take a look at the top four now. Obviously, since it's modern, we don't necessarily see a whole lot of crossover. We can actually have for the most part, pretty much whole decks to look at. There are some concessions, of course, with the decks I see probably with Lightning Bolt. But we see them playing Counters Company, Titan Shift, and Blue Red Gift Storm. And you know what? Storm is not really shocking to see, in all honesty, because that's a deck that you can build with or without fetches, which is really nice. The fetches are definitely probably more optimal, but I mean, there's jury's kind of almost still out on that one too sometimes. So,
yeah, for example, I'm back, by the way.
Yeah, Dave's back.
The Storm deck had 3 Burst Lightnings in the sideboard instead of Lightning Bolts. So.
Yeah,
that's cute.
So obviously, if you're picking up Storm and you're looking for a deck list, probably don't want to play Burst Lightning instead of Lightning Bolt.
Right? Yeah. These aren't necessarily the where you're going to want to go to pick
Burst
up your.
Lightning can do more damage.
You know what? It can. You're right.
Oh, all right.
You're correct.
5 mana is a lot in Modern. Though I have played that in a Modern tournament, so I can't really say anything.
Yeah, but it was like Lightning Bolts were still first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the fifth lightning bolt.
So, but yeah, this isn't exactly where you're going to want to go to pick up your new hot deck list. But you will kind of see maybe some unsung heroes of Modern, like you see elves played by by the second place team played by Luis Salvato. So that's kind of interesting. Lantern Control is here as well, but not necessarily like a whole lot to really highlight or talk about from these deck lists, because they aren't necessarily they weren't necessarily built with the freedom necessary for the most part.
I will say, if you're looking for a good Titan Shift list, Rodrigo Tagores is somebody who has played a lot with this deck. I don't know if his list was compromised at all by the team aspect, though. I don't.
It may not have been.
So. But he's somebody who's played a lot with this, and he's somebody who puts in a lot of work with different decks. Like he plays like basically exclusively Storm and Legacy. I know. So, yeah.
But yeah, you do see some weird stuff, and I know that people have been looking at for the Titan Shift list for the Muvali Acid Monster we see in his sideboard. So like that's the new hot tech.
That's a sweet tech. I like that one.
They're taking it from the red green Ponza list. They're like, well, they're gonna play it. I guess we can too.
Wait, they're taking tech from Ponza. That deck's really bad though.
Well, Ponza plays those main.
I didn't see any Ponza lists out here. So.
Well, no. Yeah, you are correct about that.
Or in the other GP.
Because if you're going to play a red-green deck, it's probably Titan Shift.
Play the one that just kills him.
It just kills him dead. Though I imagine if you are playing Ponzi, you probably have a pretty good draw matchup, which we'll talk about here shortly. Was there anything else that you wanted to shout out from GP Madrid? I want to play one of these GPs. I want to play in a team modern GP.
I think, didn't we talk? I know this is speculation, but didn't we talk early this next year? Isn't there one in Toronto that's team modern?
There's a modern GP.
I thought there was a team unified modern. I'll look. Yeah, I thought there was.
The one in Toronto is just a regular modern one.
Well, there's 2 in Toronto next year.
Oh, okay.
So
then, yeah, you might be
I
right.
will look, but we could do it. Do you have a password?
No.
Oh, we'll figure that out.
No. Yeah,
there's plenty of time for that. Yeah.
There is not a grown man in our trunk. Shoot! I don't know why I said that.
I don't know why I said that. Why would you even suspect that? Why did I even say that?
You're sweating a lot there, eh? No, I'm not. It's okay. I gotta poop.
All right. So let's talk GP Oklahoma City. It was also modern. It was a very modern weekend, and was won by Larry Lee playing.
By the way,
It's
a very modern weekend.
Yeah, very modern weekend. Won by Larry Lee, piloting Titan Shift in the mirror of the finals. It was a bit of a weekend for big mana decks when we kind of look at it. We had 2 Titan Shifts in the top 8, and then we had, 3 Tron lists showing up as well.
Yep, including Seth Manfield
playing Black Green Tron.
Yep, Black Green Tron.
We also had a Jeskai Breach list piloted by Patrick Tierney. A Living End list, which I think Living End, makes a lot of sense. You get to play a bunch of the 2/2 that kills lands.
Fulminator Mage.
You have Dredge showing up, actually, piloted by Nathan Smith, which is kind of a deck that's been low on a lot of people's radars, but slowly, when people forget about Dredge, it happens to come back up and be prominent.
Yeah. I do. So I want to talk about the Jeskai Breach deck a little bit. So Patrick Tierney, I believe he was first in the Swiss going into the top 8 with this. He was undefeated for quite a while in the tournament. He's playing like a somewhat innovative list here. He's kind of mashing the blue-red Breach deck together with Jeskai control. And I think it's a cool little innovation here because, it obviously plays a lot like Jeskai. You have your Lightning Helixes and your Bolts, Electrolyze, and things like that. Path Exile, and then you also just have Through the Reach Emrakul as a way to just like close the door really quickly. Jeskai is not as bad as something like Blue White as far as closing a game out. But it can be a little bit slow sometimes. Like if you don't have, a Geist of St. Trapt or something like that to really put the pressure on, like just burning them out can be a little slow, at least for Modern. So just having a 5 mana basically win the game is kind of nice. Now, obviously, I guess the disadvantages of playing this over something like just blue red is you're not going to play Blood Moons in the 3-color list, which maybe it's not as necessary, but I don't know. It kind of would have been nice in this top 8 with all the Tron decks and Titan Shift and all that going on. I will say, this may be the way to go for, I guess, the immediate future for Jeskai, because Jeskai does not have a good time with big mana strategies. So this kind of angle may give you a shot. Because Tron can easily go over the top of this type of deck. So having a way to just kind of get them, might be necessary in this type of deck. So I still don't know if that completely like shores up the match or anything like that. I don't know who he lost to in the top 8, but yeah, it was a cool take on a deck that had pretty much been homogenized. The Jeskai lists are pretty much all the same.
Yeah.
So
you're playing all the key cards. Your sideboard might change, but your main 60 probably looks a lot of the same.
Yeah, I mean you're basically like cutting the spell quellers and then the Geists out of the quote unquote normal lists for Through the Breach and Emrakul. So
yeah,
if you think of it that way, then it's like okay, but it gives you a little bit of a different angle. So kind of like it.
I want to mention the Living End list that also top 8'd.
Yeah, and there was an interesting situation. I don't know if you guys heard about. We can talk about that too.
I did not hear about it.
Yeah, I saw that. Fun fact: you can't actually hardcast Emrakul in the Jeskai list. And just in case you guys were thinking about it,
I don't think
I'm good.
I wasn't thinking about that.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
All
right.
I do think it's a little odd that was he playing any Nahiris at all anywhere?
No.
See, if I were playing this, I'd want to play at least one Nahiri because it's like you could discard those Emrakuls that you draw.
Yeah,
like if you draw duplicates,
feel a lot better.
Or like you could just ultimate and get an Emrakul that way.
He's so close. He's playing,
I don't know. I don't know if that was
14 lands. It just bugs me.
No, search for his Cantic and flip.
Oh, you know what? He did it. He did it. All right, never mind. I retract my statement. I look a fool now.
Yeah. And I don't know. He may have tested this out, but I think Nahiri makes a lot of sense in this style.
Yeah, I would agree.
At least one.
So yeah, Dredge, piloted by Nathan Smith.
I wouldn't talk about Living End, but that's fine.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Living End. What am I thinking? The other graveyard deck.
decks. Yeah.
I only want to talk about it because, first off, there is another Living End deck that's been going around a little bit. This is not that deck.
Yeah,
but,
the
Fate Foretold.
Yeah,
deck,
yeah,
which
yeah.
looks kind of cool. Not gonna lie.
As foretold.
Or as Foretold. I don't know. Whatever. Fate Foretold's really bad actually. Isn't it? It's like a Theros common.
yeah.
But I want to mention this only because it's a card we talked about when it first got printed. That we all said like this could be something that you see in Living End. Boom! 4 Archfiend of Ifnir.
He did it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about
The
that.
Archfiend
That's
has
really cool.
arrived.
Like I feel like Archfiend is such a cool way to like make sure that like if you end up because if you look at Living End right now and you look at decks like Humans, right? Man, that feels kind of terrifying depending on like what's going on. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to bring all this stuff back, but what if I'm bringing Archfiend of Ifnir? Well, all of a sudden, right? Things get a little different. So, especially since the way that you can set it up, with Living End is you can definitely have Archfiend of Ifnir in play with all your mana untapped. So, I thought it was a cool little take on it, and we've seen more of the black second cards because of the As Foretold deck.
Yeah.
So, I just want to at least mention it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So the play though that happened, I don't know when this was in the tournament, but Raymond was playing against a Scapeshift deck, and they had just gone off with Scapeshift with their triggers on the stack, and Raymond stops with all the triggers on the stack, and he beasts within one of the mountains.
So he had exactly 7 lands.
Yeah, he had exactly 7 lands. So just the typical like 18U.
Yeah, so he got a Valakut and then 6 mountains.
So when that happens, the first one does happen, but the rest of them don't.
Oh.
And I don't think that was communicated because he conceded after he did this.
So it was awkward as well because he pulled the judge aside. I think the Scapeshift was on the stack.
Was it on the stack?
So I believe it was the Scapeshift was on the stack, and then he kind of like stepped away from the table and asked the judge a question. We don't know what he asked the judge, but presumably it was something about how land destruction interacted with Valakut triggers. So he did the play that presumably he asked about, but then conceded anyway. And I don't know if. Again, we have really no information here.
Right.
We don't know if it was an incorrect ruling by the judge. I mean, or if he asked the wrong question. Nobody really knows. But it was kind of an awkward situation because it was a game that he definitely would have won,
And he didn't.
and he didn't because he conceded. So
Oh.
it was just a really. It was one of those things that can happen in a format like Modern, where there's so many different interactions. And if you are not familiar with the way Valakut works with Scapeshift, then that's an easy thing to miss. So, so that was a little awkward that happened in the top 8. But at least he still gets that Pro Tour invite. So, he has a chance to redeem himself at the Modern Pro Tour coming up here. But
Yeah, that is awkward.
yeah.
So what else did you want to talk about from this one?
Maybe we should talk about the resurgence of Tron. Not Eldrazi Tron.
I mean that's kind of like, remember we just had a resurgence of Jeskai, and when Jeskai is good, then Tron will be good.
Yeah.
So now we're just kind of waiting on what will defeat Tron, which is likely
Storm.
non-interactive combo decks, and Storm's been on sort of the downswing. It's been very not necessarily widely played. It probably showed up a decent amount in the team event because it's a deck that you can make concessions to building, and it also doesn't steal a lot of cards from other decks. But you're going to see a lot of, I think, non-interactive. If you want to beat a Tron meta, play a lot of non-interactive combo.
Yeah.
A deck's really good against Tron? Ad nauseam. So
That's fair. That's fair.
Well,
You like that deck, huh?
yeah, I'm a fan.
Well, that's a deck that has fallen off. I wouldn't say Storm is like fallen off too much. It's definitely we see less of it.
I mean,
In the top eight,
people
obviously.
thought it was like busted. And
Well, yeah, we were
broken.
talking about it. Like, do we need to ban anything from
Yeah,
Storm?
and then it's
a little while ago.
But I think players are starting to get wise. They're starting to like have an entire gentleman's agreement. That's like, all right, people are talking about banning this stuff. They have them with Death Shadow. People are like, oh no, people are talking too much about banning Death Shadow. Let's all not play Death Shadow. Forget.
I do think I do think Storm is difficult to play optimally,
Yeah.
and I don't think the format is like super hostile to it right now. I mean, like we've been talking about how Grixis Death Shadow is a deck that has kind of been in decline, I would say, and and Jeskai was kind of the top dog, before this weekend, as far as numbers, just sheer numbers of top eights and wins and things like that recently. So, but I mean, Jeskai is not a hard lock against Storm. I think it's pretty interactive. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes, but if Tron is going to be the thing that people are going to gravitate towards, which does make sense, I do think you're going to see Storm pick up a little bit.
Yeah, and people are going to start playing just land destruction again. You're going to see an uptick in like Blood Moons and
Molten Rains,
Fulminator Mages, stuff like that. Because people have just been very lackadaisical about having that in their lists, and they're gonna change that for sure. I think it's weird. I think if like I were gonna play a deck, I'd want to either like play a deck that is non-interactive combo, or a deck that can play a Blood Moon really well, because then a Blood Moon is just fairly good, obviously against Tron, but also really good against Scapeshift.
I also think like aggressive decks, but you could also see like
things
like Burn, which has been back and forth. Like Burn likes those decks a fair amount, and even like Affinity too also can sort of go low to the ground, especially since like some of the Tron you're seeing is like there's been the mono green Tron as well, which game one is just fairly LOL to things like Burn. Obviously gets like Thragtusks and stuff out of the board, but
right. But I mean, like, you with mono green, you don't get like Collective Brutality, which is, man, that is the card you want against Burn. It feels great to like 3-for-1 them.
That's fair,
and get value. So I still like, out of all the decks, I still think I prefer like mono Blacktron, green Blacktron, as far as that goes. But I don't know. We'll see if the meta corrects itself. We don't really have any modern tournaments, like big ones. Like no GPs or opens until the actual open in Columbus. So we'll see if the memory sticks around that long enough for people to shift towards beating it. But if you're going to play Tron, then obviously keep that in mind. Be aware of how people are going to try to battle you and do your best to combat that. So maybe it's time to get your Crucible worlds out.
I may be in the minority here, but I definitely prefer this, kind of classic Tron to Eldrazi Tron. I hate Eldrazi Tron so much. I think that's mostly because they play Chalice main deck. And
Just like Chalice. You just say Chalice of the Void.
It's just like, why? I hate Eldrazi's as well, so it's like kind of like all the cards I hate.
I mean, so. I really enjoy playing Tron, and it was funny because I recently picked up the deck, and then I went to FNM and did really well in FNM, but it's FNM, so like who cares? And then it's like Tron was like everywhere the weekend. I was like, dang it, why couldn't you just been like okay for a while? Why would you have to be like really really good, and then people will remember like, oh, Tron, and then like I won't be able to play it. I'll play something else in the open or get stomped.
I think another reason why you might see Tron see just more play in general is, you had some big names playing it. Yeah. And we said that we've said that before, where you have again Steve Rubin. I guess we talked about the black red hollow one deck, about how
Steve, I used to trust you. You used to play decks that were appropriate. What have you done?
Well, we talked about how he played that at the team open, and it kind of like lent some credence to the deck a little bit. Like, okay, maybe this is legit. And Steve Rubin, we see him again in the top 16 here. He finished 12th playing, I believe it was Mono Green Tron. So again, he's like, okay, well, you see Seth Manfield top 8ing with it. And you see Steve Rubin playing Tron. It's like, I think like in the past, even when we had modern Pro Tours, you didn't see a lot of pros picking up Tron. But the, kind of the way that the format had shaped up, mid-range blue decks were kind of doing well, and this is the easiest way to punish them.
Right.
So
And not to mention, like the Tron has a good Lantern matchup as well. So that is some influence. Lantern is a deck that got talked about a lot at the Invitational, so people might have expected like an uptick in it. And Tron is one of the decks that could consistently beat it.
yeah. So speaking of Lantern, you had a couple Lanterns showing up in the top 32. John Bauer was the highest placing Lantern player at 11th. Now, he's playing, actually, I believe, kind of a classic version of this. He was not playing the War of Inventions. That's been kind of the new hotness in this deck. He's kind of playing the, like, classic, main deck, where is this? Main deck Surgical Extraction and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like the version with War of Inventions is a lot more like of a tight list. It's a lot of 4-ofs and like a lot of 1-of like tutor targets. Now I'm no like Lantern expert by any means here, so I'm not I'm not sure what the I guess normal lists look like, whatever. But I do know we have like a War of Invention list, and then kind of a more like black greenish version with just discard and like Ancient Stirrings and stuff like that. So he finished 11th, and then we had Sam Black, who almost missed out on the tournament because capped.
Shucks, I'm so glad he got in the tournament so he could play Lantern Control.
I'm sure so many other people were very, very happy about that as well. Clearly, I'm sure Sam Black was pretty happy about it.
If I were judging this event, and a person sat down across from Sam Black, and Sam Black went turn 1, land, Lantern of Insight, go, and his opponent just like said a curse word to him, I would be like, you know what? I'm okay with it. Like,
You get one.
and I have to assume that Sam Black would be like, yeah, I understand, I get it, I'll take this one.
No, I'm no fan of this.
I'm
this
kidding, by
archetype.
the way. I would not be okay with that. It's a joke.
It's a joke.
I will say Tezzeret Agent of Bolas on the sideboard. That's pretty sweet.
I do love that card.
That's pretty sweet. That's like, hey, you having trouble
You're
winning
playing
games?
You're playing one card. I like.
You having trouble winning games in a timely manner? How about upticking this Tezzeret for one turn?
I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but winning with Tezzeret ain't one.
Awkwardly enough, I think Tezzeret is one for Nicol Bolas, though.
Yeah, he might be a problem.
That's weird.
But hey, he got that teleporter.
I'm just, I'm saying it's ironic. That's just for you.
But yeah, that's kind of modern.
Hold on, how about Infect making a showing? I wanted to say, good on you for standing. Stand by
Did
your
it make
man.
a showing, or we had one, right?
Hey, it's top 32.
It showed up.
I mean,
When's the last time I haven't seen? Where's Infect been?
Infect's been around.
Where has it been?
Places.
Other decks are top 8, and
Mainly
it's
the
down,
gutter?
It's down eating peanuts at the local bar because it's scrubbed out.
I'm pretty sure I top aided one of the opens recently, but just saying.
It's a GP.
It's like this exact list with 2 Chase for Prodigies and stuff.
I like that
so,
card too.
Yeah, that's a good card. That's a very underrated card in Modern. Like I played that, and the Delver deck most recently. It's pretty good, man. If they don't kill that,
That's annoying.
it's nice. It's
It
like a
is
double
annoying.
Snapcaster. How can you beat that? You can't.
You can actually.
I
You
mean,
can very easily, but
You go, it's really weird how there's this thing called Abrupt Decay, and it makes a no Snapcasters.
yeah. So what do you hear about? What do you think about this hubbub about like people decrying ancient stirrings and like sudden resurgence of like
Tron has like one good tournament. And like, oh
no ancient stirrings
it's
too
gotta
good,
go.
too good.
It's gotta go. I mean,
I mean, Blue got opt again. I think you have to like let it happen. I think this is. I don't know. This is what Modern does. It's good. It's healthy. It balances itself. As long as Tron doesn't become, But we've seen Tron already correct itself. It was very, very good for a little bit, and then the format, fought against it.
I mean, it's not unbeatable. I mean, obviously, Titan Shift has a very good matchup against it, and we saw Titan Shift take down the tournament. So
There's plenty of ways to combat it. Like you could even go back and look for a little bit there when Tron was really good before. You're looking at even like the Death Shadow list. You can go back and look at the Tribal Flames Death Shadow list that came back, like the versions that are just out to get you dead, right? Like the format can respond to this, and it will. If Tron is a natural response to people playing a bunch of Celestial Colonnades, well then great. People will go back to playing a bunch of Fulminated Mages and Ceremonious Rejections. This is how a metagame is supposed to work. And I feel like people who are call for a ban immediately, maybe they play Standard too often and they're confused as to how a good metagame should look. But Modern should shift. A healthy format with this many decks that can continue to shift back and forth is nice.
For sure. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, come on.
I don't like Tron. I hate that deck. But I don't think it needs to be banned out into oblivion right now.
You don't like it unless it has blue cards in it. Then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but that unfortunately I don't think will ever be good enough again. I have considered so many times putting it back together, just like playing the Delver game, just like let's get
I know the
band
feel.
back together, and
I know the feel. Like you're going through your cards and you just flip past. You're like, oh, gifts and given. Oh man,
long ago. Oh man, but. No, I like, I don't like seeing a million Trons up here at the top, but this is one tournament and people, just like any time a certain deck spikes, it's like, okay, we know what the enemy is now. We have to go back and look at this. Plus, the Tron decks have to do what they did before, which, when it's one or two Tron decks, they only have to worry about the field. When Tron does this, they have to worry about each other. So it is a legitimate thing to look at, because Tron mirrors are miserable.
Yeah, they're bad.
Who gets Karn first?
Yeah, you did it. Look at you. I'm very proud of you.
They know bueno.
Well, I mean, they knew that, like, even on coverage.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they'd be showing a Tron mirror, and then Marshall Sutcliffe would be like, it'd be turn 3 Karn, and he'd be like, hey, so what are you getting for dinner tonight? Because, like, the game was already decided. It was already over.
That's one of those decks you really have to measure that in, whereas, like, it's like, can you even get an edge in that? Do you want to play mirror matches? No, you probably don't. Because you're literally just losing die rolls and losing matches. So, don't. The sky's never falling. It's just a shift.
Well, it's
a Titan shift.
A Titan shift.
Wow. And like, if you just play Modern on a local level, your local metagame may not even change. You know what I mean? Like, Modern, like we said, is kind of a slow format to shift. Like, this was a good week to play Tron, but cards are expensive. Not everybody has the ability to just like, hey, I'm gonna like drop this deck and just get 4 Karns and like
if you're a pro or something like that, or a regular grinder on the series, like you might have connections enough to switch into something, or like even use like there's deck rental services and stuff like that, and like you might do that for a tournament, but you're not going to do that for an FNM. So it's not something that you're going to see wild shifts in. Necessarily, but you're for your bigger tournaments, then you're definitely going to have to take that into consideration and try to if you can't switch your deck, prep for what you expect the field to be. And obviously in Modern, it's going to be a little bit of everything, but there's going to be winners and losers after a tournament, and an uptick and downtick in certain decks and archetypes. So you might want to hedge your bets against that, and that means you might have to sacrifice some slots for other matchups, but I don't know. That's kind of the good and the bad with Modern, and that how it is. So, but we'll see what happens.
Again, I mean, probably the best bet. I mean, if you want to, have success, is just to play what you know, but take these tournament results into consideration when you're building your deck. Like, maybe devote a couple more slots to beating Tron or big mana decks. You know what I mean? Like, if you're playing like 2 Blood Moons before, maybe you want like 3 in your sideboard now. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. You know what I mean? Just pay attention to what is doing well and what people might gravitate towards.
Right.
So.
And if you want to play those big mana decks, then figure out how to beat the hate and be able to beat the mirror match or the other big mana deck. So, like for Tron, for instance, maybe look at Witchbane Orb or Orbs of Warding, something that is colorless and gives you hexproof. Or maybe you shift your support color. Maybe you go green-white for the next tournament, and then you have Leyline of Sanctity in your sideboard. So, like, there's other strategies that you can, or avenues that you can take to combat what you might expect to see happening.
Green Red's like, but come on, we finally have, you get all 4 Grove of the Burnwillows now. Come on, let's get the party, let's get the band back together, guys.
Like, what do you get from playing red? Like Pyroclasm?
Yeah.
It's like that.
You get board sweepers. You get cheap board sweepers.
You could sideboard Blood Moon for the mirror. No,
nope. That's not how that works.
What is that actually good against in any of these like top 32
Hey,
lists?
shut up, Dave. That's what it says.
You get elves.
It is good against elves.
Affinity.
Humans kind of, but not really because they just
Sure.
get bigger.
You're probably going to play Kozilek's Return as your
Merfolk,
sweeper.
if that's a thing.
No merfolk here.
Oh, that's weird.
No Ponza either, huh? That's weird.
Yeah, no, we understand,
I
Dave.
don't
We
see-
get it.
I don't
It's
see
not going to
any-
be every tournament. We get to make the joke. You can't just be like that when it doesn't show up.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, we
Well,
get it.
if you can bring it up when it does show
When a
up,
card
then I
that
can
it
say
plays
it when it
consistently
does-
makes into a deck that
Yeah.
wins a GP, I'm so sorry. My bad. I don't know how I managed to make that comparison. That's weird.
Anyway,
I'm leaving.
but there are definitely some avenues that you can take to, regardless of what side you're on, to properly prepare for your next tournament, whether that's Star City Games Columbus or not.
I'll talk about one more deck.
All right.
Corey Burkhart.
Yeah.
The man just can't
he's
stay away.
playing-
It's like my Delver obsession. He
He's
just
playing-
has to play Grixis Control.
Yeah, he's playing Blue Jund as
I feel bad for him, though, because he's playing Blue Jund when Tron's all of a sudden coming back.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't pick a good weekend to play Blue Jund, but he still finished top 16. So
Well,
he's just that good.
he's just a master.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, he wrote about this on Channel Fireball. He wanted to kind of rework the Grixis Control shell based around the Search for Escanta, which you see a lot of control decks have been picking up.
Yeah.
So he's playing a couple searches in here, and
Man, get your searches. They're going to be good for the entirety. They're going to be good in standard, obviously, and then they're going to be good in modern.
yeah. Honestly, like I'm looking at the list now. Outside of the searches, it's not that much different. Though he is playing the full 4-pack of 4 Kolaghan's Command, 4 Cryptic Command. With 4 Snapcasts.
He's in command.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah, he-
for certain.
He's got a lot of commands.
He's telling people what to do consistently.
But maybe going forward, I don't know if your name's not Corey Burkhart. Maybe not.
Just stop.
Don't try this at home.
So I think a deck that may be able to fight the scourge that is the big mana deck, so it might possibly be Jund Death Shadow or 4 or 5 color Death Shadow, depending on your build. But that's a deck that can play a lot of Fulminator mages and has ways to rebuy them. Can get them and fetch them with Traverse. So the Traverse based Death Shadow decks. So
So I played that deck for a little bit, and it's not so much that like you want to like recur your Fulminator mages over and over. It's more like, okay, I'm going to play, Thoughtseize, and Disrupt you,
you're
while also
yeah.
getting a Death Shadow in play, and then also blowing up like 1 land to keep you off,
yeah,
and then like hopefully kill you before you get back online.
right.
That's more like the plan. It's not
But,
like I'm going to blow up all your lands.
But if you're playing the one that splashes blue, then you can get access to rejections and disdainful strokes.
Sure.
Yeah, you have rejection of Disdainful Stroke. You have a lot of good options. But
Yeah.
it is one of those games though where like you can just like if they do land one of their bigger threats or like something like Ugin, for example, you're done.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
done playing Magic.
Ugin's a sad face. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, if you're not playing way back when Death Shadow first broke out, and you were playing, the Become Immense Team Battle Rage combo, like Tron was pretty easy because you would just turn 3.
Yeah, they would turn 3 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's like if they're able to take you off your clock, like if you are not able to disrupt them, or if they can take you off your clock at all, then it's not really a good matchup because your Thoughtseizes can only do so much.
Yeah, you can't protect the top of the deck. You
Exactly.
can't disrupt that
Right.
necessarily.
And it's kind of the same with Titan Shift. Like those decks are usually pretty good against the Death Shadow builds. So I think there are ways to build Death Shadow to have a better matchup.
You just play all the battle rages. We figured it out.
Like I said, you could go back to again.
Yeah,
you could go
like
back-
the Zoo style. Yeah,
just do it. Just play it and.
Just do it. Just get sponsored by Nike.
Yeah.
Get some
I was thinking-
Nikes on.
I was thinking more some like Shia LaBeouf there, but that's
Just do it. Or that.
Battle Rage.
So definitely some options, and I think we all think that, including Dave's dog, think that modern is a great format. is perfectly fine. Don't try to ban stuff. Nothing's gonna get banned before the Pro Tour anyway. Stop your hollering. We'll see what the Pro Tour does, and if the top eight's Ultron, then maybe you got a point. All right, maybe it's just time for the cut 8th and 9th
They
edition.
just ban
Get
Urza's
'em out.
Mine. Just Urza's Mine.
What about that unban though?
What about that unban? Yeah, they can unban Blood Red Elf.
They talked about potentially unbanning something.
I'm okay with Blood Red Elf coming back into the mix, shaking things up.
I'm actually coming around to the thought of Stoneforge Mystic seeing an
Nope.
I still
Disagree.
Think that's right, but
Disagree.
That's like, how does Stoneforge do against these Tron decks?
It
LOL.
doesn't matter.
Okay, I guess.
I'm just saying, like, they're you know.
It's still a really powerful card.
I think it's hard to look at like the people who have argued for either a Jason ban or a Stoneforge unban. Look at how good Jeskai's been all of a sudden and be like, yeah, it really needs a push. Control's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs Jace. Like, I don't know.
I'll say at this point, I think we would see a Stoneforge unban before a Jason unban.
Oh, I agree with that. Don't get me wrong.
for sure.
I do it. I'd sleeve Squadron Hawks back up in a minute. Like, you give it to me. And like I said, we don't have like JIT, and yes, there's like decks running on the 4 Kolaghan's commands, but there's a bunch of strategies that are absolutely invalidated by a turn 3 Batterskull. They just are.
Yeah, and also like I play Eldrazi taxes. Please don't make me have to buy my Stoneforge Mystics.
Well, you get them now. They're only like $10.
Okay, we figured
true.
We figured it out. We figured it out,
15,
Mike.
I think.
Dave's just sitting on a bunch of Stoneforge Mystics.
Oh.
He's trying to.
All right.
He's trying to speculate.
I didn't mean to derail here.
Wait,
but I'm just saying.
Why is that closet door bowing? Nothing.
It's totally not packed to the brim.
I think if they unban something, it's probably going to be Bloodbraid Elf.
Stoneforge Mystic is $15. So
It's that Bloodbraid Elf. We're gonna throw it into the mix, see what happens.
I already have those. So.
I have them too for no reason. I have the
not like
FNM
that's like a big investment.
promo one signed by Argyle.
Yeah,
That's cool.
So they're pretty nifty, and they're signed in red and green.
yeah, he's good about that.
It's good. They're very good. I don't have a deck I'd ever play them in now, but it's very good. Anything else for modern before we move on? All right. Before we jump into our question of the week, do you want to give a shout out to BCW Supplies? They are going to have a Star City Games tournament sort of team that's going to grind the Open Series this year. They have announced 2 members so far. It was I know Brent DeCandy got announced today, and Todd Stevens.
Yes,
was announced yesterday. I wouldn't say Tim Stevens. I'm like, that's no one. Todd Stevens got announced yesterday.
Tim Stevens guy.
So two members of the Dapper the Dapper when they team up for Star City Games tournaments, they dress up and stuff
so
like that.
we know Tan and Grace would be the next.
Tan and Grace would be
we don't actually know.
No, we have no idea, but that would be the likely third to complete the Dapper trio. But
I think what they're actually doing is they're just going down the actual list here,
picking the top players. That's smart.
Yeah. So we can probably expect. I don't know.
No.
We don't have any kind of inside information.
But no, we of course were not asked to be part of this team, unfortunately. So don't you won't see any Mike or Dave announcements coming up later on in the week. That's not in the cards, unfortunately.
I just can't help myself.
If they want me on the team to play in like 2 opens a year,
they actually called me and they said that I was probably going to be on the team, so they would do like a photo shoot and everything else. But I said probably wasn't good enough, so I told them no.
Wow. All right. I can't fault you for that, but
it might be a little dated at this point. Don't care. Hilarious.
Yeah, because that happened 7 years ago? Oh no, wait, it happened last week or 2 weeks ago.
I don't know. Everything feels like it's taking forever.
I feel old.
Like live a year a week at this point.
So keep there's a new Facebook page, a new Twitter. If you want to follow the team and see who's going to be on it to get hyped for the 2018 season. And of course, if you are still looking for your holiday gifts for your gamer in your life or you're a collector in your life, check out bcwsupplies.com. And we're also going to do a giveaway. So tomorrow I'll post up a link, and we're going to give away a deck box. So a deck locker LX, yeah. So be sure to watch out for the link, and make sure you jump on that, and we'll announce. We'll give you guys some time. We'll announce next. I don't know. Next week.
Well,
1 week.
We would have next week, and then
It'll be 1 week. So we'll announce. We'll let you know when you win, and we won't announce on the show until after that, obviously.
Yeah. So do we want to make it a quick giveaway? Or do we want to make it like a through the holidays thing? Maybe do it like. As
At the beginning of the new year, yeah. We'll do it through the beginning of the new year. It's just so you guys have plenty of time to enter. We can hype in stuff. All right. So, question of the week. So obviously we talked a little bit about Pauper entering the fray at GPs, the side events, but there has been a lot of talk on social media about Pauper maybe showing up on the Star City Games Open. or Pauper as a format for a GP. So we kind of wanted to discuss that and share thoughts on it. So what does everyone think about Pauper suddenly being talked about as being a true paper format?
So I just want to clarify. So I know Cedric Phillips had kind of a poll, like what people would think of this as like an open series format. And I think Channel Fireball posted a question of like, what would you think about this? My first reaction was like, that's dumb. And I don't know why you'd ever do that. But then I kind of thought of it. It's like, it would kind of be cool to have like one of those. I don't think it's something that you'd want to do a lot of because I think it would get old pretty quickly. But I don't know. Like, it's more of a real format than something like, Frontier or something like that, which, never really got any kind of
I don't know how you make a comparison. They're like, it's more of a real format than a format that was never a real format.
Well, then
it is more real than imaginary.
It is, but like, it's
true.
a weird comparison. Like, it's a format actually on Magic Online. Of course, it's a more real format than Frontier.
Sure. I don't know. I think like I'd probably play in one.
I wouldn't.
I don't even play Pauper, but
I know you can play Tron and Pauper, so I'd probably play it.
Yeah. That's kind of a problem. It's like, hey, you could play this format that's all commons. Oh, you can play Tron. Oh, and you get the stars. You get the chromatic star.
Oh, okay. First of all,
You
so
get
there are plenty of other busted
You get
things you can play in the
crop rotation.
format. You can play Snap in the format. Like, come on. Like,
I for a second I thought Treasure Cruise you could play that. I was like, oh man, I can play Treasure Cruise. Oh no, that's banned.
No, it's
that's
banned.
Like, a lot of things, like Cloud Affairs and stuff is like banned in that format,
That is
right?
banned.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, see, all the
A
things
lot
I
of
want
like
to
the
do are all
storm
banned.
cards are banned. Like Empty the Orange is banned.
Yeah.
'Cause you just play like you can play all the rituals.
Peregrine
But,
Drake is banned.
yeah.
I here's the thing. I think that as a format in general, it is hilariously bad to legislate, right? Because there's so many different versions of cards and things have gotten downshifted in master sets that like that is a super headache for judges.
There's also like two different. There's like the Magic Online list.
Yes, and then
like
the proper list,
real
like
life
cards
one.
they actually accept as common because they were printed at common only at Magic Online, right? Only in the
Like some of the Masters
Vintage
sets.
Masters.
Yeah.
vintage. Well, yeah, Vintage Masters and just the original Master sets, right? The what can I think of the name of them? The early ones that they did
yeah,
that.
it's just Masters. Masters set.
No,
No, it's
something
Masters.
edition?
I think they were just Masters Edition. I think that's what they were.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if those original Masters just affected commonality.
Maybe they didn't
though.
affect rarity. Maybe I'm wrong. But I feel that I think it would be horrific to try and legislate. And I don't know. I've never found that format to be interesting. I've tried to play it a number of times. Like I don't know. I think it's cool. I'm glad that people like to do it. If people want to do it in side events, by all means, try to. I don't foresee that going very well. Like I don't foresee people like saying like, "Oh man." Like maybe a few people will. I'm looking at our local community that's tried desperately to launch Paper Pauper a couple times. Like the whole groundswells, let's do it, and then every time the actual tournament would happen, no one shows up. And I just don't know if that's like obviously there's a strong enough push to get it at the GP level, but there was a strong enough push to get Frontier at the GP level, and it went you looked over to that part of the tournament hall and there was actual tumbleweeds. It was weird. I don't know how they got in the room.
I think for this format, like if you do compare it to Frontier, there's a lot more data out there for Pauper. Like you can just go look at all the like Magic
there's
Online
real
results.
decks. Like again, it's a real format that
Yeah,
people could just
yeah.
do that. But I don't know what would drive people to do that. I maybe one time out of the I don't know. Like they want to look at a train wreck, I guess. But
I mean, it's possible that the extra exposure that it would get from something like a GP or an Open would drive more people to want to play it.
maybe.
Like it's like even if you're not even playing it right now, if you're like, hey, I'll tune in and watch coverage of this, right? And then you see it and you're like, you know what, that actually looks pretty sweet. I think I'll build a deck. And then you get some people in the local community that are thinking the same way, and then it kind of builds up from there. So I don't know. I'm not against it. I mean, again, I would probably play on one if there was one within a drivable distance.
Yeah, I'm not driving for that tournament. I think honestly, if people wanted to do it like and it happened, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, they like I would feel that way if they did that, or like try to do it like with Frontier. I thought that was stupid because it wasn't real. This being a real format helps, but I do think that unless there was an actual like deck submission program that auto checked cards for you, like that it was in the right format, because that's what Magic Online does. You can't add cards to the deck that aren't legal in the format.
Yeah.
So you can't submit a deck that's illegal, but you could in paper. And I think when you have so many versions, so many arts, so many this and that, it is impossible to, again, build a judge staff that is going to be comfortable in that format.
I think that's a legitimate concern. And you even had issues at the Team Unified Modern
absolutely.
GP where like teams were getting game losses because they had two different decks with the same cards.
Right.
And it was like, that should be easy enough to figure out.
I mean,
but
you saw it early in Modern when you had the initial ban list, right? Like I went to a number of local Modern tournaments where people got really upset that their cards had been banned and they didn't even know it. Or that first round of bans after the PT, and like people were like, "Well, I just want to cast Preordain." You're like, "Well, you're not allowed to." I don't know what to tell you, bud. So I don't know. I think it could be fun. Again, maybe if there was a digital deck submission that just auto checked the decks for you and said, "Okay, this is cool. Like this is fine." But even then, like, you've still got to have a judge staff that's going to watch like hawks, because that is an abusable format as well. Like, really easy to just like take an older card that doesn't have a rarity indication on the card and tell your opponent it's a common. Like, you and I don't know that format. I have no idea what a random antiquities common is or isn't. You know what I mean? How could I possibly know that I'm getting got?
yeah,
So-
no, yeah, that's those are all valid points. I think it would be cool to see another format that it's been around for a while now, and really they are designing a lot of these newer sets, like a lot of the Masters sets. We see a lot of stuff that has been
absolutely.
downshifted. It's kind of like a nod to Pauper. It's like, hey guys, here you go.
I do hope you know that for the last few times that's happened, the Pauper community has actively gotten fairly angry about that. That's why
really?
That's why Peregrine Drake got banned.
Yeah.
Well,
like because they don't play test it, they just throw cards into the format and people get angry.
yeah, but I mean,
I'm just letting you know, like, actual backlash, actual cards banned.
okay, well, take that out of it. But it tells you that Wizards is actually thinking about it.
I think they're thinking about that more for Cube than they are for Pauper, but maybe I'm crazy. So
I don't know. I don't know
or
what they're thinking, but-
let's be honest, they're thinking about it for their set. They're thinking about it for draftability. That's what they're thinking about.
Sure.
I don't know. Like, if we ever get to the point where we're having large like tournaments, right? Which I think, as we've talked about, is something like, if you get large tournament halls, then that would make sense. Something like what's the tournament at WotC that's on computers? I can't think of it.
Oh, just like the mocks.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, you could have Pauper as a format for that. If you have a platform that no one's going to have like any confusion as to what's legal in the format, then yeah, go for it. I think that's fine.
Yeah, so maybe like the first step is like, hey, let's have a Pauper like PTQ
Yeah,
online
something like
or something
that.
like
Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I just think it's so hard to just legislate in paper, especially when you have so many people who are just intrigued by the format, go out, and then it's so abusable. It's just so abusable. Like, don't worry, this Alliances card is definitely a common. We're kicking your teeth in with it, but don't worry, it's good. I promise. Look, and then you get a newer player who's like, yeah, well, the symbol's black, looks good to me.
So
I didn't realize Force of Will was in this format, but I guess it's a common.
I mean, it's close. It's not uncommon.
It's true.
I think that a lot of people are talking about Pauper because Standard's kind of boring.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Again,
And I
that's
think-
that's where the comparison to Frontier is apt. That it's moving in because
It's also we're in the time of year.
yeah,
where
when
it's
people
like,
just looking for something.
no
new.
matter what, like Standard be boring. It doesn't matter if it's like a good format or like kind of a stale format. Like, it's at any point like Standard's kind of dropping off at this time of year.
Yeah.
As are most the events actually. We're not going to have a ton of events coming.
No, not till the new
after the
year.
new year.
Yeah.
So we do have a couple GPs this weekend.
Yeah. They're limited GPs though, so right.
Yeah. Ixalan Limited, even worse.
Even worse.
They could have made it
even
like
worse.
iconic Masters GPs. That would have been sweet.
I mean, it would have been something. But I think that you'll have these side events. I think they will fail to really get a lot of buzz, and then people will stop talking about it. That's just my opinion. I think that the more Standard is solved or not interesting, the more people look to other formats that aren't modern, because modern and Legacy have and Vintage to a lesser extent, or to a greater extent, but lesser extent, people look at it have these high paywalls to get into them, and Pauper doesn't until people invest in the format, and then it gets expensive. Like, there's been a lot of tweets that are like, I really think Pauper should be supported in paper, and then like the same person 6 months later, why is Chainer's Edict a $20 card? It's like, yeah, once people get invested into the format, then obviously the
demand goes up.
The demand goes up and the supply dwindles, so you're going to have price shifts. So it's cheap now, just like Frontier was cheap now. But
it's still cheap.
True.
You can still buy into Frontier pretty easily.
But it wasn't something that had, true legs. It was just people wanted to be distracted because Standard is boring. And in general, Magic right now is boring. So let's talk about a format that doesn't get talked about a lot in paper, which is Pauper. So we'll see. I'm still hesitant. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I don't think you could do this and make it like an open format or anything like that, or a GP format. At least not anytime soon. Maybe if Wizards was like, hey, we've supported Pauper online, we're going to do the same thing for Pauper in actual cards, and we're going to have this strict. We're going to enforce the Magic Online ban list. That means that everything that is legal online is going to be legal in paper, and it's something that we're going to strictly enforce to make sure it's communicated with the judges. And we're going to start small and work our way up. Maybe it starts off with like an FNM format that you can have, and then goes from there.
I think it is an FNM format.
Is it? It could be. I guess your FNM can be anything, right?
It's on that giant list of formats.
Well, maybe they more encourage it. I don't know. Like, you have to start small and work your way up and make sure it's feasible, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of interest in it.
Again, I just think that when you look at something like an open series or a GP, I think I think players would play it at least once, but the biggest strike against it remains how do you staff it? You just can't.
Staffing is hard.
You're talking about too many sets, and there's not that issue in Legacy where you just have a ban list, so you know what you're looking for. Like, this is a format where you're asking people who may or may not, both the player and the judge, to be able to identify cards that are legal.
Yeah.
From set, Gorilla Shaman is a card that's played a ton in that format. How many people may have never actually seen a Gorilla Shaman before?
Right.
You know what I mean?
There's a difference between like knowing what is legal and is not legal to knowing what is common and not common.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing. So,
but I mean, looking at it online, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a pretty cool thing that exists online.
Yeah. If there was a bigger tournament scene, which there may be in the future, then that would make more sense to me. It would make total sense.
Because you look at like the decks and the archetypes that you can play, and some of them are pretty cool. Like one of the most played decks is like mono green, and that's probably because it's cheap, but it's like it must be pretty good.
I think one thing I will say about Pauper, like I've never found it that interesting, but it is sort of the old guard, like the old flag bearer for older decks that, like, when you're looking at like what's a classic Magic archetype,
it's like pure Magic.
Yeah, like Stompy is here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so you have Stompy, you have Kodoltha Boros, you have Burn, you have Boggles, you have Is It Blitz, you have Mono Blue Delver. So yeah, definitely a lot of things that exist and are fairly old school, as it were. So. Maybe if there's a grassroots effort for it, maybe it'll happen, but it didn't really happen with Frontier. So, moving on. Well, let's go up to the wrap of the show. So, first and foremost, we have GP New Jersey and GP Singapore. Again, these are going to be Ixalan Limited. And then we have the Modern IQ at Comic Time, which we talked about earlier in the show. So, that's kind of what's happening over the weekend. And if... clearly, Dave's cat agrees and he's excited about these tournaments.
Excited about Modern.
Very, very excited. We also have Star Wars opening up in theaters this weekend, which is,
that's also happening.
Something more realistic that we're going to be talking about next week. Let's be fair. Dave, are you going to go see it this weekend? Probably not.
I'm going to try.
Well, we're going to spoil for you anyway.
It might be difficult.
So get wrecked.
Yeah, that's true.
We're going to tell you all the secrets. Everything that happens,
specifically the secret of the use.
Just those secrets. We're not going to tell you how the movie goes or the plot or how good it is. Just all the things that get spoiled that are our secrets currently. That's what we're going to tell you, because we're cruel, terrible people, and your friends.
You are.
But that is going to be mainly what is going to be happening. We have that, and then we may be watching some other Star Wars. We're going to watch the Chronicles of the Star Wars, all of them. Not all of them, the good ones.
Yeah.
So, but that's everything for us this week. If you want, you can definitely check us out via social media. We have a Twitter account. It's just Your Endstep, and when you add us, it's at Your Endstep. And we also have Facebook, so facebook.com/@YourEndstep. You can also email us at YourEndstep@gmail.com. If you are downloading us via iTunes, feel free to leave us a review. It definitely helps with visibility and gets us new listeners for the show. We also have MTGcast, which is where you might be listening to us from. So if you are, definitely feel free to check out some of the other lovely shows on the MTGcast network. That's going to be everything for this week. We appreciate every week that you guys come and listen. You folks come and listen, I should say. And you have a great one. Bye.